The mansion stood high above the city like a forgotten castle, surrounded by towering iron gates that had not welcomed a true guest in years. Every night, its countless windows glowed with warm golden light, yet inside those walls lived a man whose heart had grown colder than winter itself. He possessed everything money could buy: luxury cars, priceless paintings, the unbearable loneliness that echoed through every empty hallway. Then, on one stormy evening, fate placed a frightened stranger at his gate, and that single unexpected encounter would change two lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness can heal broken hearts, if you believe everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Ethan Caldwell had become one of the richest men in America before turning 50. Business magazines celebrated him as a financial genius, newspapers admired his relentless determination, and television interviews described him as a visionary whose companies transformed industries. Yet none of those headlines ever revealed the truth hidden behind the expensive suits and confident smiles. They never mentioned the silent nights when he wandered through his enormous mansion unable to sleep, or the countless evenings he sat alone at a dining table built for 20 people while eating a simple meal in complete silence. Success had given him everything except the one thing he desired most: a reason to feel alive. Years earlier, Ethan's life had looked very different. He had once laughed easily, dreamed fearlessly, and loved deeply. He had married the woman who believed in him before success ever found him. Of luxury. They celebrated tiny victories with homemade dinners, spent weekends exploring parks instead of private resorts, and believed that happiness was measured by shared moments rather than expensive possessions. Their daughter had completed that picture of joy, filling their small home with endless laughter that seemed capable of chasing every shadow away. But life can be painfully unpredictable. One rainy evening, while returning from visiting Ethan at his office, tragedy struck. A reckless driver ignored a red light, and within seconds everything Ethan cherished disappeared forever. His wife and daughter never came home. In a single devastating night, the future he had imagined collapsed into unbearable grief. Most people expected Ethan to fall apart completely. Instead, he buried every emotion beneath endless work. Day after day, month after month, year after year, he expanded his companies with an almost frightening determination. Every new contract, every successful investment, him from his pain. He convinced himself that if he stayed busy enough, worked hard enough, and earned enough money, the memories would somehow hurt less. But grief is patient. It waits quietly in the corners of empty rooms. It hides inside familiar songs and forgotten photographs. It lingers in birthdays that are never celebrated and holidays that become impossible to enjoy. No amount of wealth could purchase peace for Ethan's wounded heart. Eventually, he stopped accepting invitations to visit him. Business meetings moved online because he no longer enjoyed leaving the mansion unless absolutely necessary. His employees respected him, but they feared him as well. They saw only the strict billionaire whose face rarely showed emotion. None of them knew that after every meeting ended, Ethan often stared at an old family photograph resting inside his desk drawer for several silent minutes before closing it once again. The mansion itself reflected its owner's emotional emptiness. Marble floors stretched endlessly beneath crystal chandeliers. Priceless artwork decorated every wall. The only person who had ever played it beautifully was gone forever. The indoor swimming pool remained perfectly clean despite never being used. Every luxury imaginable existed within those walls, yet the house felt strangely abandoned, as though it had been waiting for years for laughter to return. Only one person still visited Ethan regularly. His elderly groundskeeper, Samuel, had worked for the Caldwell family for more than 30 years. He remembered Ethan before wealth transformed his life, before sorrow changed his spirit. Samuel quietly maintained the gardens, repaired whatever needed fixing, and occasionally left fresh flowers beside the photograph of Ethan's balmy morning, Samuel noticed Ethan standing alone near the mansion's highest balcony, staring across the city below. The billionaire had remained there for nearly an hour without moving. The skyline sparkled under the rising sun, but Ethan looked beyond it, searching for something no building could ever offer. Samuel often walls. Unlike ordinary prisons, this one had golden gates, luxurious rooms, and unlimited comfort. Yet it was still a prison because its only prisoner had forgotten how to let anyone enter his heart. Outside those gates, life continued without noticing the lonely man watching from above. Children hurried to school carrying oversized backpacks. Their dogs through neighborhood parks. Couples held hands as they crossed busy streets. Street musicians performed these ordinary moments with quiet envy. Once upon a time, he had believed such simple happiness would last forever. The weather slowly changed as autumn settled over the city. Leaves painted the streets in shades of gold, orange, and crimson. Cold the estate. The approaching winter somehow made the mansion feel even larger and quieter. Then came the storm. Dark clouds rolled across the evening sky with unusual speed. Rain crashed against the windows while powerful winds bent towering trees almost to their breaking point. Lightning illuminated again. Even Samuel finished his work early and urged Ethan to remain indoors until morning. As the storm intensified, Ethan reminded him of another rainy night many years ago, the night his entire world had ended. Unable to quiet his restless mind, he walked toward the massive front windows overlooking the entrance gates. That was when he noticed something unusual. At first, against the violent wind, soaked from head to toe, clutching what appeared to be a worn backpack. Ethan frowned. No one ever came to his mansion uninvited. The security cameras confirmed what his eyes had already seen. It wasn't a thief or an intruder. It looked like a young girl, perhaps 12 or 13 years old, standing alone in the middle of the storm with nowhere else to go. She wasn't reached the end of a journey she could no longer continue. For reasons Ethan couldn't explain, he continued watching instead of walking away. Something about that lonely figure awakened a feeling buried beneath years of grief. It wasn't pity. It wasn't curiosity. Felt every time his own daughter needed him. The rain grew heavier. The girl stumbled. Then Ethan's heart seemed to stop. Without thinking, he grabbed his coat, rushed through the enormous front doors, and ran into the storm. Some seconds would begin the greatest transformation of his entire life.